Hello. All right, we're back and we're going to start today with chapter 15. When we finished up yesterday, we were reading that the peach was just starting to move, just starting to roll down the hill. The centipede had gnawed off the stem of the peach, so it was disconnecting from the branch and it was just starting to roll down the hill. All right, so here we go with chapter 15. Outside in the garden at that very moment, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker had just taken their places at the front gate, each with a bunch of tickets in her hand, and the first stream of early morning sightseers was visible in the distance, climbing up the hill to view the peach. Uh-oh. "We shall make a fortune today," Aunt Spiker was saying. "Just look at all those people." "I wonder what became of that horrid little boy of ours last night," Aunt Sponge said. "He never did come back in, did he?" "He probably fell down in the dark and broke his leg," Aunt Spiker said. And they don't care. "Or his neck, maybe," Aunt Sponge said, hopefully. She hoped he would break his neck. "Just wait till I get my hands on him," Aunt Spiker said, waving her cane. "He'll never want to stay out all night again by the time I'm finished with him. Goodness gracious me, what's that awful noise?" Both women swung around to look. What do you think the noise was? I think it's the peach on the move. The noise, of course, had been caused by the giant peach crashing through the fence that surrounded it, and now, gathering speed, every second it came rolling across the garden toward the place right where Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker were standing. Ooh, what do you think? They gaped. This is gaping. They screamed, "Ah!" They started to run. They panicked. They both got caught in each other's way. They began pushing and jostling, each one of them thinking only about saving herself. I'm going to show you a picture of them as they see the peach coming. They're seeing it coming towards them there. Aunt Sponge, the big fat one, tripped over a box that she'd brought along to keep the money in and fell flat on her face. Aunt Spiker immediately tripped over Aunt Sponge and came down on top of her. Boom! They both lay on the ground, fighting and clawing and yelling and struggling frantically to get up again. But before they could do this, the mighty peach was upon them, and there was a crunch, and then there was silence. The peach rolled on, and behind it, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker lay ironed out flat in the grass, flat and thin as a couple of paper dolls cut out of a picture book. The peach got them, the mean, horrible aunts. Chapter 16. And now the peach had broken out of the garden and was over the edge of the hill, rolling and bouncing down the steep slope at a terrific pace. Remember that they're all inside this peach while it's doing this. Faster and faster and faster it went. And the crowds of people who were climbing up the hill suddenly caught sight of this terrible monster plunging down towards them, and they screamed and they scattered to the right and the left as it went hurtling by. At the bottom of the hill, it charged across the road, knocking over a telegraph pole and flattening two parked automobiles as it went by. That's a big peach if it can flatten cars. Then it rushed madly across about 20 fields, breaking down all the fences and the hedges in its path. It went right through the middle of a herd of fine Jersey cows, and then through a flock of sheep, and then through a paddock full of horses, and then through a yard full of pigs, and soon the whole countryside was a seething mass of panic-stricken animals stampeding in all directions. The peach was still going at a tremendous speed, with no sign of slowing down, and about a mile further it came down to a village. Down the main street of the village it rolled, with people leaping frantically out of its path, right and left, and at the end of the street it went crashing right through the wall of an enormous building and out of the other side, leaving two gaping round holes in the bricks of the building. This building happened to be a famous factory where they made chocolate. And almost at once, a great river of warm, melted chocolate came pouring out of the holes in the factory wall. A minute later, this brown, sticky mess was flowing through every street in the village, oozing under the doorways of houses and into people's shops and gardens. Children were wading in up to their knees, and some were even trying to swim in it. And then all of them were sucking it into their mouths in great greedy gulps and shrieking with joy. Kind of sounds like something Edmund would do, doesn't it? But the peach rushed on across the countryside, on and on and on, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. That means behind it. Cow sheds, stables, pigsties, barns, bungalows, hayricks, and anything that got in its way went toppling over like bowling ball pins. An old man sitting quietly behind a stream had his fishing rod whisked out of his hands as it went dashing by, and a woman called Daisy Entwistle was standing so close to it as it passed that she had the skin taken right off the end of her very long nose. Would it ever stop? Why should it? A round object will always keep on rolling as long as it's on a downhill slope. And in this case, the land sloped downhill all the way until it reached the ocean. The same ocean that James had begged his aunts to be allowed to visit the day before. Well, perhaps he was going to visit it now. The peach was rushing closer and closer to it every second, and closer also to the towering white cliffs that came before the ocean, because you had to get to the edge of the white cliffs and then drop into the ocean instead of being a beach. These cliffs are the most famous in the whole of England, and they are hundreds and hundreds of feet high. Below them, the sea is deep and cold and hungry. How could the sea be hungry? Sounds like we're using a metaphor there, doesn't it? Because the sea isn't really hungry, but the book says it is. So it's hungry because it likes to swallow things up. Many ships have been swallowed up and lost forever on this part of the coast, and all the men who were in them as well. The peach was now only 100 yards away from the cliff. Now 50, now 20, now 10, now 5, and when it reached the edge of the cliff, it seemed to leap up into the sky and hang there, suspended for a few seconds, still turning over and over in the air. And then it began to fall. Down, 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 down. Smack! It hit the water with a colossal splash and sank like a stone. I'm going to show you a picture of it falling off the cliff. Hold that a little better. Go back a little bit. See it falling off the cliff? And it's going to fall down, down, down into the water. And remember, it fell smack into the water and then sunk like a stone. But a few seconds later, it popped up again, and this time it stayed floating serenely on the surface of the water. And that's all we're going to read for today. That's the end of chapter 16. I'll see you tomorrow for chapter 17.